welcome back to the second half of Focus. I'm Pearl Ollie, your host, and in the studio with me I have a very exciting guest today, Jim Fern. Welcome to Focus.
Thank you. How are you doing, Paula? I don't know about exciting, but now I got to live up to that. So.
Yeah, you have to. But I think everybody's going to be excited about what you do. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay, I'm a comic book artist, graphic novel artist, an actual comic book artist from Marvel, DC Comics. I've done work on Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, a whole list.
All the great characters. How did you do this? How did you get this?
Well, you know, that's a good story. Actually, it's a long story, but I'll try to cut it short.
Let's start right from the beginning. I want to know all about it.
So here I am, a kid in Long Island, New York, sitting down like everybody does, drawing pictures, and I'm a perfectionist with everything, so I grabbed one of my T-shirts, which was Spider-Man, and I traced it over and over again until I became pretty good at it. My uncle, who wanted to be a cartoonist, he was ushering with a real cartoonist, a nationally syndicated strip cartoonist by the name of Bill Reckon. So I didn't know, but my uncle was keeping an eye on my development. Wow. So at the age of 15, he showed my work. I was 15, he showed my work to this fellow Bill Reckon in Virginia. So I went down one summer and visited, and I met with Bill Reckon. Mm-hmm. And he said, you know, I could get you a job right now. Now I'm in 10th grade in high school, 15 years old,
wow.
and I thought, you mean I could do this for money? And he says, yeah, absolutely. I waited. It was the worst 2 years of high school I ever went through, waiting to graduate high school so I can go down to Virginia and become a comic book artist.
Oh, how wonderful.
So that's what happened. At the age of 17, I went from Long Island, New York to Virginia. My first job was on the Potomac, on a 45-foot houseboat, which was this fellow Mike Roy's studio. So I was a background assistant, inking backgrounds, you know.
Wow.
It was Buck Rogers in the 21st century.
Oh my gosh.
And from there, I had to go back to New York, and I went back to New York, and I didn't have any work in New York, so I pushed. You know, actually Bill Reckon helped me there too. So he gave me an opening up at Marvel. So I got an interview up at Marvel, and I walked away with the job that day. And I drove back in, handed the job in. It's all about deadlines, and so I guess they were impressed with the fact that I was young and I could do it quick. And I did the jobs nobody else wanted to do. So that's. You know,
that's great.
Yeah.
Now, how did you learn how to do this outside of, did you go to school for it or anything like that?
No, it was very difficult. I thought about going to school. There's a school called the Kubert School in New Jersey, but that was too expensive. So it was just a matter of observing and learning.
And focusing.
And focusing. Here we are on Focus, and it's all about focus. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just tried to practice what I looked at. It's all observation and focusing and imitating what you see. And, and so I got a job as an inker, which I didn't have to really draw a comic book. So maybe we can show later on
well,
different steps.
Maybe we can pull that up right now and show the steps of what you're talking about. And they're just fabulous drawings. You're just wonderful.
Yeah, there are many steps to doing a comic book. And this is a full penciled page. That's not the first step, but I get a script. And
so the first step is actually the script.
The script. There's
Reading
an editor,
the script,
right? There's a publisher, DC Comics. This is for DC Comics, and there's an editor, and the editor decides who she wants to. My editor was Marie, so they decide who they want on the book, and they have a writer. The writer was Paul Levitz, who used to be the publisher of DC Comics. So they say, okay, we'll get Jim Fern. They send me a script. Nowadays, it used to be FedEx, now it's email. So the first thing I do is I get the script, and I do a thumbnail, a rough sketch, which is, I think, the third one in. That's the full pencil after I do a rough sketch. So that's my rough sketch of when I read something off the script, it'll say panel 1, the hero's sort of got a tear in his eye. Panel 2, the Green Arrow and his sidekick Speedy are dead, which is sad. That's why he's crying.
Oh.
So I have to figure out composition and background.
Now, doing the faces and the animals and all that, basically you're taking kind of from the storyline and trying to figure out who the person is and that you're going to be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Now this is, what would this be now?
So after I draw it, you saw the full pencil version. It goes to an inker, a fellow by the name of Joe Rubenstein, who I've known for like 30-something years. He actually takes a crow-quill pen, like the old time, dips it in a bottle of ink, and goes over my actual pencils.
Oh, wow.
He doesn't trace, it's like redrawing what I do. That's how I started in the business. And then I learned how to pencil by inking other people and seeing how they, and I learned from this guy, too.
Oh, wonderful.
I was a Green Lantern artist for a little while. There was a movie, The Green Lantern.
I love it.
I was the Green Lantern artist for like 3 issues, and then somebody else came on. You know?
Wow.
kind of neat, it's kind of fun. Before comic books, as it was dovetailing, as I was getting into the business, I was doing portraits in malls.
That's wonderful.
Nothing more nerve-wracking than trying to draw somebody's likeness as they're sitting there in front of you.
Yeah.
So
and that was Vivian Lee, right?
That was Vivian Lee, so I would show those and say, hey, I could do this, with your face, yeah. So
wonderful.
about 25 minutes,
Now, when you look at the script, for instance, let's go back to the script, because that's really where it starts.
Right.
Somebody's talking about, what would give us an example of a script?
A script?
Yeah, like a little bit of a little storyline.
Part of that story.
Right?
Part of that story. There's the Green Lantern has enemies on another planet called Quard, and all these guys, they're called Weaponers of Quard. It's an army coming down on a bridge of lightning, going after 5 of the heroes, and that's the first panel. Wow. And I sit there and I go, I got 6 more panels to go. How do I do an army of aliens from Quard, the Weaponers of Quard?
So how do you do it?
That's very difficult. It's very difficult to explain before time is up, but it's, like I said, it's a lot of learning it. I've been doing it for 30 years, and I finally figured out when I was 25, which was like 25 years ago. You take every visual that you have in your head, and you use composition, perspective. Perspective is the most important. You have to know depth, you have to know 3-dimension. So you have a 3-dimensional image in your head that you try to translate into 2D art. Mm-hmm. So I have a Rolodex in my head of all kinds of images. If you said draw a Porsche, I'll stand there and draw a Porsche. So that's how you do it. And you have to know how it fits. You have to know a little bit of...
Well, so you really learned a lot. I learned in college, and you're telling me you just did this on your own, and that is amazing.
When they give you a deadline, you go, yeah, I can do it. And then you go home, you go, how do I
figure this out?
Brings me to this guy if we have time, but yeah.
Oh, we will. Yeah. And this is a book that, now tell us a little bit about the cover of this. You didn't...
Well, this is a trade paperback. It's a hardcover. So these are classic Judge Dredd stories from the 70s by Alan Grant, Brian Bolin, and a whole lot of people. They made a couple of movies. Sylvester Stallone was the first Judge Dredd. I did the cover of 8 issues a few summers ago, and they compiled all the issues together, and they used one of my covers for this cover, and my other covers are inside as each new story starts. So that's one of my Judge Dredd covers. My name's in red down there, little bitty, but that's okay. That's the way I wrote it. But see, even this, you have to know how many links are, on his badge, and because you're dealing with licensing, you got to know so it's a lot of observation.
Yeah, you really have to be accurate on some of this.
You do.
And tell us now, we talked a little bit about for the coloring of something.
Well,
now it's done digitally. And years ago, you had to do it by scratch. And this is a good lesson. I hope my students, my art students, because I've been telling them, oh, you do gouache on gels and all that kind of thing. And you're telling me, tell us what it's called.
Well, in animation, the see-through thing that they ink and paint on is called a cell.
Cell.
For celluloid.
For celluloid.
Not
so
a
I was
gel.
calling them jelluloids.
You were doing a Dr. Scholl's commercial, but all this time. You were a spokesperson, you didn't even know
yes, I know. It was something in there. And you also worked for Disney, right?
I do, and I'm still a freelance. I have a contract with them still as a freelance artist, but I was the first, what they call a show artist at Epcot. When you walk in the Future World right next to, I forget the name of the thing, the ride, the Future World.
Right.
So there's the Art of Disney Gallery, and I was the first artist there drawing animation drawings.
I probably
for
saw
people.
you there.
Probably, it was about 15 years ago.
Yeah, didn't even know.
Yeah.
How funny.
Yep.
Now, this is something you wanted to talk about, and I'm going to hold this up.
Yeah, so my good friend, you asked me how do I learn how to do this.
Yes.
When you stumble, you need to know somebody, and how do you know anybody? Where do you look? I actually I had my first job for Marvel Comics that I was going to ink in my arm, and I was going to the local comic book shop. My buddy Jim was running the shop, and who was standing there was this fellow named Don Heck. He was one of the 4 original Marvel comic artists with Stan Lee, and he helped design Iron Man. He actually created like 4 of the Avengers that you see in the movies today, Hawkeye, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch. And he designed the Iron Man look in 1966.
The Iron Man, people. This is the Iron Man
The Iron
guy.
Man. Robert Downey Jr., when he was in the cave and he came out as Iron Man, that was based on Don Heck's original design.
That's a phenomenal movie, too.
Yeah,
it is.
Really he'd be happy with it, yeah. Oh. So I went to him. He was standing right there at the comic shop. And I said, you're Don Heck? And I introduced myself. I said, I just got this job from Marvel Comics. What do I do with it? How do I do this? Yes. I had no clue. So he showed me tips, and he was not a mentor, but he showed me you know, the things to know, the tools and
And
everything.
there's an interview with you in this book, right?
Yeah, it's about 5 pages of me. I'm
Quite a
interviewed.
few years back, right?
Well,
And
no,
now
this was
is-
just this past summer.
Oh, this past summer, okay. And then this,
This is just, I brought it because it was handy, but I'm in this book. I've done a smattering of Spider-Man books, and this is all about the different, you know, the highlights of Spider-Man's life in comic books. And
yeah, and it's, I can remember, I'm dating myself here, but I remember reading, that was like one of my favorite ones when I was growing up.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the very first ones, you know, and I mean,
Right.
it goes back farther and farther and farther, but
Well,
Spider-Man's really, you know, come a long way.
He
And I
has.
mean, he's still, when you think about all the different makes of, and retakes of
yeah, the reboots.
reboots of
Yeah.
Spider-Man and what they've done with them, I mean, it's just amazing.
Going to be another one, right? Yeah, exactly.
There is going to be another one?
Yeah, there's a new reboot coming. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
With a new actor, another new actor.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. So what, in this one now, you
Well, I was in issues like the Hobgoblin Revealed and the honeymoon issue of Peter Parker and Mary Jane, so that's all highlighted in there.
wow.
And again, learning the comic books, anything you would buy that had Spider-Man on it in the 70s and 80s was done by John Romita Sr., who was another mentor.
Let's bring some of the other pictures you
Okay.
have up too. I think we're going to have to get you out of here one day and just have you do some sketching for us and show us a little bit about what you do.
That's just another cover, Judge Dredd cover.
Oh, that's wonderful. Look at that.
And this is,
Moon Boy.
I co-created and designed this. We're trying to pitch this to certain people, me and a couple of friends. One of the friends is Chuck Dixon. So I designed all that. And it's kind of fun. I can do cartoony and realistic. This was a story called Headache, and it was written by Lisa Joy, who's married to Jonathan Nolan. Jonathan Nolan, the movie maker. He just did Interstellar with his brother Christopher Nolan.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, it was kind of nice. And she used to do the TV show Burn Notice down in Miami.
Wow.
And that's a painting I did about 15 years ago. It's
That's beautiful.
It's about innocence, you know, like the death of innocence.
Oh.
So I got an angel saving a boy from keeping him innocent, you know.
Oh, okay.
It's actually not finished, but.
Oh, well, this has just been fabulous. Do you have anything, last words for anybody out there that's trying to do art?
Oh, trying to do art?
Quickly, because we got...
No, just give me a call if you want to know anything else, or email me. Look me up, and
All right,
we can
and
talk
we have
about
your
it.
webpage on the air.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you
Let's
on
have
the
a
show.
stand-in for me next time. A better-looking guy next
Oh,
time.
come on now. We'll see you next week for more Focus. Until then, good night.
1, 2, 3 children die every minute because they don't have access to clean drinking water. Let's do what it takes to save a child.